Welcome to Coding Blind Tech. Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to Coding Blind Tech, and in this video we're just going to be moving around in VS Code. I figured I would kind of show you some of the most used commands that I use to navigate Visual Studio Code. And then again, I figured this will be kind of a free-for-all session, maybe 5-10 minutes where we kind of move around and talk about, again, my workflow, kind of the most used commands, the processes I go through the most. So I'll be using, again, Visual Studio Code, and then we will be using NVDA Screen Reader. So that's from NV Access. All right, so getting right into it, we have Visual Studio Code open. And so if I read my title with insert plus T as in Tango.
Dockerfile dash tick dash tac dash toe left bracket WSL colon Ubuntu right bracket dash Visual Studio Code.
Awesome. Okay, so you hear the title there. We're inside of the tic-tac-toe game. And also you hear that we are inside of WSL Ubuntu. So whenever you open a file up in Visual Studio Code that is inside of the WSL Ubuntu box, it will use the Visual Studio Code server on the Linux side, and then it will use the client on the Windows side. So that's pretty cool. It's like working inside of Linux, but I'm on a Windows machine. So all right, getting right into one of the commands I use all the time is I need to be able to open up files. So to be able to see my file tree and see the files that are within this Visual Studio Code workspace, I could do Control plus Shift plus E as an echo.
Files Explorer Tree View, Dockerfile 11 of 20 level 1.
Awesome. So you hear that File Explorer Tree View. I'm on the Docker file and it's 11 of 21. So that's 11 out of 21. Now in this list, we can move around. So I can up arrow, down arrow.
Compose.yaml not selected 10 of Dockerfile 11 of 20 level 1.
Right, or I can hit home.
DIST not selected collapsed 1 of 20 level 1.
Right, and that'll take me to the first item, which if you have folders will come first, and then files. And then I can also hit end, so the end key.
v.config.js,
and that will take me to the bottom. All right, another thing I want to show you when you're inside of this File Explorer, if you listen very carefully, I'm going to up arrow.
Vline React line setup.md not selected 19 of 20 level 1.
So it announces the file name, and then it says it's not selected, and then it says which file it is, and as far as numbers go within this list. Now another thing I do quite often, let's say that I just want to select this file and stay in the file tree, you can just press spacebar.
Selected.
All right, now this file is selected. So, and again, if you just wanted to open this file, you could just press enter.
Main landmark, vline react line set.
All right, it's going to open that file up. And another thing to note is when you open your File Explorer back up.
Files Explorer Tree View, vline react line setup.md19.
All right, so remember that's Control plus Shift plus E as an echo. And notice if I hit up arrow and then go back down.
Readme vline react line setup.md19 of 20 level 1.
All right, that is the file that it was focused on whenever I hit Shift Control plus E as an echo. So that shows you that whatever file you have open in the editor, if you hit Shift Control E, it will open up the File Explorer and it will have your focus on that file. All right, while we're in here, while we have focus on this file, another action I like to do is my applications key. But that's pretty normal. What I like to use within that application area is what is new to me. So let's say that I wanted to share, not a file, let's say I wanted to share a folder, and it's the same for a file as well. You can also do this on a file. So I'm going to hit home.
DIST not selected collapse.
And let's say I wanted to share this DIST file. So this, would be production code. So if I wanted to share this, I'm gonna hit enter.
Selected expanded.
And it selects it. and it expands it. And then I'm going to hit the applications key.
Menu.
All right, for me, that's just right next to the control key, but it may be Shift F10 for you. But if you up arrow until you hear download.
Delete renamed copy download copy download ...
All right, you hear download ... I'm gonna hit enter on this.
Files Explorer. Choose where to download dial.
Awesome. So now it opens up a file tree and you can choose where to explore or where to download that file to, or that folder, and it downloads the folder. It doesn't zip it up or anything. It just downloads the folder and the contents inside of it. If you don't want to do anything with that, you can hit escape or just tab till you get to cancel, and then it will put you back in your file tree.
Level 2 assets not select.
So like there, I just down arrow and I see the next file in the tree. All right, so moving on to our next command, let's say that you are sharing your screen, or let's say that you're recording your screen and you only want the file in the middle. You don't want the sidebar. And just so you know, I learned that the File Explorer and like GitLens and things like that is going to open up on your left. And then the GitHub Copilot chat opens up on the right sidebar, and then you may have a terminal or two on the bottom. So let's clean that up. Right now I can move over to the editor with F6, so that's another command.
Main landmark, VLine React.
All right, so this moves me to the editor. Now again, let's say I want to clean this screen up. So the first thing you can do is close that primary sidebar on the left. I'm going to do that with Control plus B as in Bravo.
Primary sidebar hidden.
And you hear there, primary sidebar hidden. Now the terminal down below, I can, let's say that I'm in the terminal.
Terminal 1, comma.
So you can do that with Control plus Grov, which the Grov key is above your tab key and to the left of your 1. Now, once you've done that, you can press Control J as in Juliet.
Main landmark.
And now what that does is that actually is going to close that bottom pane. And now all we have is our editor on the screen. But let's be sure, what if that right sidebar is open and we don't know? Well, it's okay to open and close it. So we can actually do Control Alt plus B as in Bravo.
Secondary sidebar shown.
All right, so you hear secondary sidebar shown. So we're going to hide that. We can just do the same key command, Control plus Alt plus B as in Bravo.
Secondary sidebar hidden.
Awesome. So now the only thing that should be on the screen, and you always want to have somebody double check if you're not able to see it yourself. Like in my case, I am completely blind. So I have had somebody check this before to make sure. And it most certainly is only going to show the main file that you have open right in the middle of the screen. All right, awesome. So let's say that I wanted to switch files. I've got multiple files. So we have the Docker file open, and we have the file we have open right now, which if I read my title with NVDA modifier key plus T, for me that's insert. For you, it might be caps lock, but you want to add the T to that.
VLine React line setup.md-tick-tac.
All right, there we hear the title. So now, say I want to switch back to the Docker file. I'm just going to hold down Control, and then while I'm holding Control, I'm going to press Tab.
List Docker file 204.
There it is, Docker file 204. Now, if I wanted to open this file up, I just let go of Control.
Main landmark. Docker file editor has autocomplete multi-line.
All right, and now we're inside of the Docker file. But if I wanted to see all of those files, I can hold down Control and press Tab.
List VLine React line setup.md204.
There you hear that one. It's going to take you to the last file you were in, and I'm going to press Tab again.
Agents.md304.
And there's our third file out of 4.
Prompt.txt 404.
And there's our fourth file out of 4. So I'm going to go back around to Docker.
Docker file 104.
And there it is. I'm going to let go of the Control key.
Main landmark. Docker file editor has autocomplete multi.
Awesome. So that's how we navigate files. Now, let's say that I wanted to close all of these files. But before we do that, let's say that I accidentally close this Docker file. So I'm going to Control F4. That's how I close a tab.
Vline React line setup.md editor has autocomplete.
All right, so now if I do Control Tab,
list agents.md 2 of 3.
you hear 2 of 3. So I just closed that Docker file. Let's say I did that by accident though, right? So I'm going to press Control Shift T as in Tango.
Docker file editor has autocomplete.
And you hear it actually brought it back. So if I do Control Tab,
list agents.md 2 of,
and then
main
let's
landmark
say
agents.
Let's say
list Docker file main landmark.
There it is, the Docker file right there. Now it brought that Docker file back and it put it in our focus. Now let's say that I wanted to move the reverse through those files. I can do Control Shift Tab.
List prompt.tech vline react agents.md2 Docker file 1 of 4.
There we go, and you hear that it moves backwards. All right, so now the next thing I want to show you is let's say that I wanted to, let's say we had 15 files open, which is more than reasonable. I've been there, that happens to me all the time. Let's say that you want to quickly close all the files in that you have open in Visual Studio Code. We can do Control plus K as in kilo.
Edit read only multi-line blank.
Immediately after that, do Control W.
Docker file dash tick dash tac.
All right, and that's going to close all files and that were open in the tab. So, and again, if you want to bring them all back, you can bring them back one at a time with Control plus Shift plus T as in Tango.
Application main landmark Docker file editor has autocomplete multi-line number syntax
file.
List agents.md 2 of 4.
Agents.md
Prompt.txt.
and you hear Control Shift T brought all of them back. So every file we just closed with the Control plus K and then Control plus W as in whiskey, Control plus Shift plus T actually brought all those files back. All right, so a few other things. Let's say that we have notifications. So, and you typically you'll hear a notification once whenever it prompts you in Visual Studio Code, but you may cut that off, or something may happen to where it doesn't finish and you're not sure. So the way that we can get to our notifications is we can press F6.
Status bar.
All right, and you're going to hear status bar. You can continue to press F6.
Active view switcher tab. Main landmark. Status bar.
There you go, and that may be what you hear. So you want to get back to that status bar. Now in here, we want to get to the bottom. We can just press End.
Notifications button.
And there's our notifications button. We can press Enter on this.
Notification center list. Info : do you want to install the recommended tick container tools tick extension from Microsoft for the Docker language ? Notification.
All right, so it's asking me if I want to install a specific extension because it recognizes that, you know, I have a Docker file. For now, we're going to say no, so we can actually tab.
Install button.
And you hear install.
Show recommendations button.
Show recommendations, and I'm just tabbing.
Notification actions tool. Show install button.
And then, so I didn't hear a close button.
Show recommendations button.
So now I'm right arrowing.
Install button. Show recommendation.
Nope, so I'm just going to Shift Tab.
Install button.
Shift Tab again.
Info : do you want?
And then I'm going to Shift Tab again. Well, first we're going to hit down arrow because we're in this list. And there's no other notifications, so I'm going to Shift Tab.
Notification center actions toolbar. Clear all notifications button.
All right, and right here we can clear all notifications. I'm just going to press Enter on this.
Clear. Main landmark.
All right, and then it brings us back up to our main landmark, back to our
prompt.txt
prompt.txt file. So, and I read that with my title. All right, so a couple more. So I use GitLens extension. I'll show you that real quick. So if I do Shift Control X as an X-ray to open up extensions.
Search extensions in Marketplace Editor has autocomplete multi-line blank.
All right, right here, I'm just going to press Tab.
Toolbar. Clear extensions. Extensions require.
Press Tab again.
Extensions require a window reload to apply. Reload window button. Dismiss button.
I'm going to dismiss that there for the extension.
Application. Toolbar. Local extensions list.
And then we have our extensions list.
Toolbar. W. Local dash in extend.
So let me get down to that.
Toolbar.
So
WSL comma. Toolbar. Manage button. WSL : recommended section button expanded.
All right, so we have our recommended section. I don't
extensions
want to see
list.
that. I want to see this extensions list.
Container tools, 2. Dev containers, npm markdown link git history, rainbow c foundry tool Azure tool.
All right,
Found rainbow git history markdown npm dev contain.
Sometimes this can be a little tricky to navigate, so make sure you're patient when you work through this. I'm going to shift tab.
Recommended section, extensions list.
All right,
Claude code for VS Code.
Okay, here's our extensions list.
Astro, GitLens MDX, GitLens M-Git Supercharged, 19.0.1, verified publisher Git Kraken,
All right, you hear verified publisher Git Kraken. I'm going to up arrow and then down arrow again so you can hear that.
Astro, GitLens M-Git Supercharged, 19.0.1, verified publisher Git Kraken, supercharge Git within VS Code M-Visualize code authorship at a glance via Git.
Awesome. So I cut it off there, but I just want to make sure you hear that it's GitLens by Git Kraken. And so if you type in GitLens into your search, make sure that the publisher is Git Kraken. And so with that installed comes, a supercharge where you can see your Git. So what I can do is I can do Control Shift X, or not X, but I can do Shift Control G as in golf, and then G one more time.
Source Control Management Tree View.
All right, and that's going to open up my source control management. Sometimes it'll drop you off in the message and you need to shift tab to get to the source control view. But right now it looks like it's got me in that. So I'm just going to down arrow.
$left paren.
All right,
source
and
$left.
There are no changes here, but that is how I get to my source control view. And then let's say that I wanted to look at my commit history. I can just from here I can tab
commit changes unquote make more actions ...
and I can keep tabbing.
Graph section button, graph actions tool, source control history tree view.
All right, we hear source control history tree view. I'm a tab.
GitLens section button collapsed.
Our GitLens section, I'm gonna hit enter on this.
Expanded.
It's gonna expand it. I'm gonna press tab again.
GitLens actions toolbar. Commits left paren.
All right.
One right paren.
You hear actions and then commits. Now this is a toolbar. I'm gonna hit tab again.
Welcome region.
And we're gonna have a welcome
continue button.
With them just trying to advertise that we can get a pro version. So this can be annoying. I am going to hit Control F4 off of that.
Main landmark.
And then I do have to go back into the source control with Control Shift G's and
edit read only,
and then G again.
Source control management tree view.
And then I have to tab back down.
Commit change more graph source GitLens section GitLens actions toolbar. Commits welcome region.
All right, and then it's
continue
button.
Show
the welcome
Docker
again.
file dash tick dash tac dash.
And it's probably because I haven't opened this.
Application GitLens tree view. Commits main comma.
There we go. Okay, GitLens tree view. So
GitLens section button expanded. Source control history.
All right, you hear source control history, and then I'm going to tab.
GitLens section button expanded.
You hear GitLens section.
GitLens actions toolbar.
GitLens actions.
GitLens tree view. Commits.
And then GitLens tree view. Now we can down arrow.
Up to date with origin. Click to compare working tree with a main comma.
All right, and
click
see,
up to commits main comma. Has actions up to date with origin on GitHub.
It tells us we're up to date with GitHub on main origin, and
click to compare working tree with a branch.
Right here, we could click this to compare the working tree with a branch. So, if we're working on a branch and we're ready to put up a pull request, we can compare those branches locally.
Main comma has actions not selected for.
And then right here, we have main has actions.
Origin updating.git.
And then origin.
License project under MIT.
And then it talks about like this was one of the last commits I did where I licensed the project. So this is pretty cool. I use this quite a bit, especially because I do a lot of reviewing of code. So this comes in very handy. Now, one of the last things I want to show you is file rename. So, or actually I'm going to show you a couple more things. I know this video we're stretching it out, but this is good info. I want to show you this. So if we open up our file explorer again with Control plus Shift plus E as an echo.
Files Explorer tree.
All right, and then let's say that
vite.config.j.
I go to N, so I went to the bottom.
Vite.line react readme. Prompt.txt not selected 17.
I'm just going to up arrow like this prompt.txt file right here. Let's say I want to rename this. So I'm going to press spacebar.
Selected.
And it selects it. And then to rename it, you very simply press F2.
Type file name.
And now it's going to highlight the name, but it does not mess with the extension. So right here I can do prompt underscore new. And if I read my current line, I'm on a big keyboard, so I'm going to do that with the 8 on the numpad.
Prompt line new.txt.
You hear prompt line new dot text. See, it kept that text the same, and you can just press enter.
Prompt.text tick.
And there we go. So that changes the file name.
Packaged prompt line new dot text 7.
Now, let's say that I wanted to move this file to a different location, into a different folder. Now, what I can do is the file's already selected. If it wasn't, I would press spacebar. And now that it's selected, I can do Control X as an X-ray. Now I'm going to up arrow and then down arrow.
Packaged prompt line new dot text 17 of 20 level 1.
You hear it doesn't move, but it is 17 of 21. Remember that, 17 of 21. So I'm going to press home.
DIST level 2 assets not select level 1 collapse.
Now let's find
docs not selected collapse 2 of 20.
So docs, okay. So it's not selected and it's collapsed. I'm going to hit enter on this.
Selected expanded.
It is selected and it is expanded now. I'm going to down arrow one time.
Node line modules not selected collapse 3 of 20. Docs expanded 2 of 20 level.
All right, you immediately hear after the node modules folder. So what that's telling me is the docs folder is empty, right? So now I can do Control V as in Victor.
Level 2 prompt line new dot text.
And there we go. It pastes that prompt dot text. So if I actually up arrow.
Level 1 docs not selected expanded 2 of.
You hear level 1 docs. And then if I down arrow,
level 2 prompt line new dot text.
You hear level 2. Level 2 lets you know that it's within a directory, so it's on a new level. And then we have our prompt.txt file. Now remember the 17 out of 21 I wanted you to remember? What if I'm going to go to the end, that way so I can look at the last file.
Level 1 v.config.js not selected 19 of 19.
And you hear 19 of 19. And I was mistaken, it was 17 out of 20. So but that's important because now you hear 19 files. So we did remove it from this root and we did put it inside of that folder, inside of the docs folder. So, all right, well, that was just a few commands. Those are commands that I use all the time. Every time I'm coding or doing reviews, working, those are commands I'm using. So I hope you learned something in this video. Make sure you check out my shorts. I do have some shorts that are, small bits of what you just saw here. So that may be a place where you can kind of save those and refresh your memory. I know I do. That's why I made them, was for me to be able to go back and just have that as a reference. So, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. All right. Thanks. Bye.